Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar, the what, why, how of sales enablement. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are exactly, from sunny Chicago. I am Isabel Papulias, the VP of Marketing at Mediafly, and we are very excited to share this topic with you today. I am joined by Andrew Bennington.
Hello, I'm Andrew Bennington, also joining today, and I am the Solutions Director here at Mediafly.
So before we get into the webinar, just a few housekeeping items. So the call is scheduled for 45 minutes. We expect the presentation to be about 30 minutes with 15 minutes of Q&A, but it will depend on how many questions everyone has, and if we can give you back some extra time, we'll absolutely do that. In terms of the Q&A, so feel free to send us a message either through the chat box or the Q&A box, and we will be seeing the questions here, and we'll be answering them at the end of the webinar. And also, last housekeeping item, we will be taking some polls, so you'll see questions come up to you, to the group. We have 3 or 4 of them, I believe, throughout the duration of the presentation, and so don't be surprised if you see those. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the presentation in and of itself, and then we'll turn it over to Andrew about halfway through it. So the agenda, we'll talk a little bit about what is sales enablement and why it's important to organizations today, how to use a sales enablement platform technology to make more efficient and effective teams internally. And then importantly, once you've decided that sales enablement is important to you and yet you want to execute that, is how to build the business case internally to your stakeholders, and ultimately, how to select a vendor. So what is sales enablement? Pretty sure that you've seen a lot of definitions out there on the internet. And I'm sure, too, that if you ask 5 people in your immediate environment what sales enablement is, you'll probably get 5 different answers. So a lot of information out there. The definition we have here is one from Forrester that we feel is very broad, so that's a good starting point. We definitely encourage you to do your own research. There's other analyst firms such as Gartner, for example, that have their own definitions. They're all similar with some differences. The thing that we want to point out here especially, and I won't read this because I don't want to bore you, but is the notion of sales enablement as a process to help drive valuable conversations with customers that in the end optimize the return of investment. And that's what we feel is important. And on Mediafly specifically, we kind of think of it less theoretically even, and in more action-oriented terms. And for those of you that might have heard from Carson Connon, our CEO, or might have seen some appearances in events or articles in the press, you might have heard him describe this before. So we think of sales enablement as a bell curve, which we describe as the process of evolved selling. So if you think of the bell curve and having your top performers, top sales performers in your sales organization to the right, those are the performers that are usually producing the majority of the revenue, right? That's the 80-20 rule. We see that a lot, right? And those are the performers that have the sophistication to have those very value-based conversations with customers, very impactful engagements, and close more deals. So for us, what's important is how do you get your average performers that are on the left to act more like your top performers that are on the right, which again is a very actionable and measurable thing to do. So with that, we're going to launch our first poll question, which you should see in a second on your screen. Does your company have a sales enablement strategy? And you can see all the answers here. So we're going to give you a few seconds to respond, and don't be shy. And we're seeing the results trickle in, and that probably won't be very surprising to us, considering we talk to prospects and obviously customers all day, and we understand their challenges. So let's see. I'm looking at the results here. This is interesting. So, does your company have a sales enablement strategy? The majority of you, more than nearly 70%, are saying we're not sure. We need to learn more to understand, what that means and whether we need it. And then we're seeing that's actually a really good number. About 17% of you are saying yes, you already have one in action. And another 17% are saying yes, and we're in the process of implementing. So about those are pretty good numbers. Very exciting. So we will keep going. All right. So now we have a kind of a better understanding of what sales enablement is. Well, why is it important? The reason why it's important, and we would say it's actually crucial, is because it's very important to empower sales teams to engage the B2B buyer the most effective way possible. So the biggest challenge that we see for sales reps today is that the B2B buyer has changed. The B2B buyer is increasingly savvy, is doing their own research before coming to the sales meeting, and they're acting a lot more like a consumer. So they're like I said, they're very independent. They're doing their own research. They want this very personalized product or service, and they want instant gratification, right? So when you're in a sales meeting with them, you need to give them what you want, and you need to make an impact and make it in that moment of truth, or essentially you've left money on the table. The question here would be really, are all of your sales reps prepared to lead the types of value-driven discussions that this new B2B modern buyer is looking for? I mean, the B2B buyer is looking for you to prove the value of your product and the ROI you're going to create for their business. They're not looking for you to pitch them the product specifics and the features, because by the time they come to the sales meeting, they have already done their own research. They know a lot about your product and service. So as we think about sales enablement technologies out there and what sales enablement technology can do for you, these are some of the questions that we would encourage you to ask yourself, especially for those of you who answered the previous poll and said that I think there was a majority that did not have a sales enablement strategy or tool. Questions like, are your sellers spending too much time on tasks like data entry, that don't drive revenue, tasks that are very administrative that take them away from actually selling? Do your sales reps have access to up-to-date marketing approved content in one central location, or are they wasting time going to different portals looking for content to prepare a presentation and not finding the most up-to-date content? So all these pain points are pain points that we hear our prospects and customers say very, very often, and these are essentially efficiency issues,